All right, everyone. We'll get going here. All right, let's see if I can drive this today. So, all right, I think I got it set up. We'll see. All right, so welcome everyone. We don't have Adam today, but we do have Sebastian joining us. So there's good news today, at least right off the bat. So we got some good news. He's going to be helping us out a little bit. I think I've enabled all the chat functions, so someone can send a test in the chat so that I know it's working. We'll go on, but that seems to have been the biggest technical challenge we've faced. There we go. All right, thanks, Mike. Richard, we got it. All right, we're getting everybody going there. Cool. All right, so that was our biggest technical challenge later is getting Zoom to let us chat with everyone. So Adam's off on another one of his camping trips. I'm sure we'll all get a story out of this one here when he gets back, and probably a new backdrop for his OBS background. So that's kind of the normal deal there. In tradition of those where he's been off camping and I get a run with them, we're probably going to short meeting. So hang on, here we go. A few real quick housekeeping things that I want to make sure I don't forget about. Updates. All right, so those are dropping. You know, we started a little while ago with the assets. If you haven't clicked the assets feature in a while, do that. It's going to look really, really nice. There's a new feature there. The depreciation column is new. That was, I think, a really needed element in that module to make it work a lot more efficiently. But more importantly, we needed that feature in there because week before last, I think it was, there's a brand new module that dropped for budget. All right. Now, if you're still on one of our legacy membership levels, so if your membership says entrepreneur or delegate or team, I believe is the three that are still active out there, you will get the asset update. That was a modification we had to make to some core functionality, but the budget module is a brand new one, and you do need to be on one of the new membership plans. As we moved everything over and set up all these new modules, we knew we was just going to have to create a new process for that. So that's all attached to the newer membership plans. So if you don't have the budget module, reach out to me or Sebastian, and we can get you started on that path. But the new budget module is there, and here in, I guess we pushed it to next week. There's going to be a new project module. All of these are in the new software format. We're getting a new look. We're getting lots of new features. And then another little one, it was a new module or anything, is a modification to the dashboard, the 4-pillar dashboard. If you look up there at the top, there's a little arrow out there that you can now share the dashboard view. We really like that one. We're getting a lot of feedback from members, and they're using that dashboard view to really drive the conversations. You know, we used to use a report and kind of structure a widget to kind of facilitate that overall sort of view. Hey, this is where we're at. The dashboard is taking charge on that pretty well, I think, in many aspects. And remember, you can do several things there in the dashboard. Obviously, we get the overall perspective. We got the projects listed. But if you click the link icon there on all 4 of your pillars, you're going to get the notes field to come up. And that will be a note specific to that pillar. That data is stored in the report that you have attached for that pillar. But you can navigate that from the main dashboard screen. So some features in there that will hopefully help you drive those client conversations. I really like, you know, part of me is a little, I don't know, not upset, but a little remorseful maybe that we're moving away bit by bit away from the reports, which I've taken a lot of time to work with you guys on. We've built our templates. You know, I've spent the last several years building these reports, And now we're kind of moving into what is, I think, ultimately a better, interface and a better tool for engaging with our clients and using that dashboard. So a little bittersweet there, but anyway, that dashboard is looking to be a really good tool to help you out. And I think kind of one of the idyllic scenarios on this is going to be, you'll start out the conversation with your client utilizing the dashboard. It does become a great tool to move around, to set expectations. Some of you might have seen little sneak peeks of Adam's scribblings and all, but we are working on a meeting module that's going to float up there that's really going to supercharge this dashboard. So I think that's going to take us, all the way there. But anyway, that dashboard is becoming a larger portion when it comes to just minutes into a meeting, a larger portion of your conversation. And then sometimes the finer details, we're jumping out into those reports. So if you got any questions on those, let us know. The budget module is really cool. There are lots of features. I actually don't think I've clicked through and, mapped out in a repeatable fashion, at least, all the little features in that budget module. The scenarios are awesome. All right. Great opportunity to give your clients, option 1 or option 2. Basically you line it all out, you get buy-in, they understand the reasoning. We're lining up business principles instead of technologies. We're talking about, hey, this is going to make this part of your business better. We're going to talk about that more here in just a few minutes. We get that on there, and then we get the option, and pricing is a big, element here. So we've got to keep that in mind. And so you get this in front of your clients, and it's not a yes or no. All right. Sometimes we don't want to get into that route because it has to be yes, all right, or bad things are going to happen eventually. And so the scenarios is a really good tool for you to talk with your client and say, all right, we've agreed this needs to be done. Do we want to do it this way, or do we want to do it this way? Sometimes your clients, they want to say yes, but they just want some options too, right? And when you give them 2 yes options, you're really moving down the road there a little bit with that. So experiment with those. Let us know if you got any questions. We'll have more supporting material on that. All right. And then the last housekeeping deal I want to talk about before we jump into our topic for today is IT Nation. So ConnectWise big event in Orlando. I know many of you guys are going to that event. We are going to be there. If you haven't heard, lately, the Pitch It finalists, we got, tons of activity going on around that. So we really, really want to connect with you guys. We meet, in Zoom rooms, or we email back and forth repeatedly, sometimes, working on stuff. I love working with you guys on that. But I would really like to just sit and talk and meet you guys. So if you're going to IT Nation, please let us know. We want to make sure that we know everybody that's going to be there, and we want to make an effort to find a time somewhere, somehow, so that we can at least meet up in person, shake hands, and say hi. All right. So well into now Q3. So that end of the year, is just really, really coming up quick. I moved down to Houston a couple of years ago, did something I never thought I would do. I bought a 2-story house. All right. The thing about Texas is everything's bigger in Texas, right? And so why build up when you can just build out, right? And for the most part, that's the way a lot of Texas is, but you get in some areas and we kind of do the more traditional building style. So I moved into a house, and it's a 2-story house. First time I've ever lived in a 2-story house. And so it came time to hang Christmas lights. And I got to looking at this, and, it's just, no, I don't know. I'm just not that motivated. I'm not a big fan of heights. All right. So I've climbed radio towers, done my antenna work, jumped out of airplanes, bungee jumping, climbing, all those sort of stuff, rappelling. I love doing all that. But it comes time to, teetering at the top of a ladder, trying to hang this Christmas light, I called out. So anyway, tell all that, I've already scheduled the guys to come out and hang my Christmas lights. I've splurged. Anybody knows me, I'm a tightwad. The fact that I would pay someone to do something that I can do, but just don't want to do is a real miracle. But I've scheduled them to come out and hang Christmas lights. So it's that time. It's wrapping up. It's getting really real. So we need to be, one, getting those meetings wrapped up. If you haven't got them booked already, there may be a little bit of time left for you to do that. Oh, pardon me. But we are quickly approaching the end of the year activities. After Thanksgiving, I think it's a really hard challenge, to get people in a meeting. So we need to be focused on that. But also, as I kind of mentioned in my little Skip's Corner section of the newsletter went out this year, we need to be focusing on that plan for next year. All right, what's that going to look like? For those of you that have a plan and you've been working that is awesome. All right, now's the time to look at that. What went really well? Look over those series of engagements, those activities, the plays in your playbook. Which ones did you struggle with? Look at the value on those. I think there's a really decent argument of looking at those and going, these are just more hassle than their value. That's a great lesson to have learned. Pull that out of your playbook and try another play. The value here is we're going to be intentional and we're going to get some scalability out of it. If you don't do it now, you're going to be playing catch up and you're not going to get as much value out of it for next year. All right, all that leading up to our big topic for today, the key stakeholder interviews. If you've been unfortunate enough to get locked in a Zoom room with me and we get on this subject, I've probably gone off on key stakeholder interviews. And so here we are again. I'm going to do it one more time, maybe. Well, I'm certainly not the last time, but yet again. So key stakeholder interviews, I still strongly believe is one of the fantastic low-hanging fruits that you can take advantage of right away. And a couple of things that I think are really valuable or are really easy about this is, one, it's one of the cheapest engagements you can do. All right? I won't say no cost because we like to get paychecks, right? So, there's still a time element there. But there's virtually no prep time for a key stakeholder interview. You don't need to run any reports. You don't need to check in with anybody. You don't need to peruse through their licensing or inventory reports. There's nothing that you need to do to get ready for a key stakeholder interview. All right. So one, it's a very low cost event to get in on. And then two is the skill set, or even just, I don't know, the general comfortableness of having some of these conversations, to make up a new word there again, is really low. All right. It's really easy to have a key stakeholder interview because you don't want to be talking a lot in a key stakeholder interview. If you have a key stakeholder interview and you come out of that and you look back and go, wow, my mouth is dry. I just talked for, 50 minutes straight. You didn't have an interview. Okay. So you need to make sure you're listening in these. So if you have people that they say, hey, I'm not really good at talking with people, a key stakeholder interview is a great activity for them to get involved with, because all you need to do is ask some questions. So they're really good, really easy to get into. Some of the bigger value points are you're going to get a connection with someone within an organization that you might not have, and I think many times you might have not had a relationship with. That's really important. We know we need to have more hooks, more connections with our clients. You don't want to be single-threaded. All right, just like processing, you don't want to have just one point of contact, one person that is your go-between for everything. So this is a great opportunity to expand that. A lot of questions that I get on, how do we get those other contacts? How do we know who to talk about? Again, that one I think is pretty easy because you don't have to decide. You ask your customer. Who do I need to talk to? Who are the key stakeholders in your organization? The good thing about that, as well as they're going to give you a list, probably just a short list, 1 or 2 people. And when you start that conversation with those people saying, hey, I'd like to meet with an interview for you, you get to put the little snippet in there, however you want to structure that, that goes something along the lines of, hey, your boss said we need to talk. All right. Mm-hmm. And so I think that helps reduce that hurdle that we have sometimes of just getting meetings scheduled. All right. We get pushback, we get people going, oh, I'm busy or whatever. And so we get to play the boss card on that one and said, your boss says we need to talk. And so that will sometimes help open the door on those. So a lot of things I talked about there. I think all of them are centered around the ease that I think you can really have a key stakeholder interview, low barrier to execution for those. Be sure and send out any chats you want. Sebastian will chime in on those. I'll try to check those as well as we go along here. But let's dive into what those would look like. And let me get set up here and hopefully do the fancy switch. All right.
It looks familiar.
All right. Is it coming over clear? All right. So did we get it?
It's a little blurry. No.
Okay, let me back up, because I'm always messaging Adam in his, whether he's sharing it blurry or not. And I think I'm gonna just go simple here to make sure I get it right. All right. So in your templates there, you drill down into a client, then drop down here into the strategic business review. All right. It's down here. It's in some of the extra widgets. All right. And, I think we've templated these up lots of times, especially after you get running with the reports, you kind of have your rhythm, your groove down. But don't forget, many times there are some additional resources down here in these reports. The SWOT analysis, we'll probably dive into that one a little bit later. I'm pretty sure that's on our calendar, but I'm not sure when we get into it. But we want this one down here, and it may or may not be hidden in your template. So we jump down here into the key stakeholder interview, and modify these, put these graphics up here however you want. And it's really not a questionnaire. All right, don't let it fall into a questionnaire process. We want this to be open-ended. And so we're going to fill out a few things, when, who, get a job title, just to kind of make things a little easier to keep track of going forward. But keep in mind, job titles are very, very deceptive. All right. So someone can have a job title that says analyst or something, and you think, oh, no big deal. Right. But they're the analyst who created, the main product this company is using or whatever. So that's why they may be the key stakeholder. There may be somebody that wasn't on your radar, that you didn't have any clue that they were really that important. But that goes back to getting this list of candidates from the CEO. He's going to know who's important. If you're talking to the boss and she says, yes, you need to talk to these people, then you need to talk to them. All right. Because they know how their business is run. And I've seen this happen many, many times. You'll find someone who is maybe not the extrovert personality, or, they're just not out there much. I think kind of one of the standard examples is Apple. Everybody's heard of Steve Jobs, but only the nerdy people know about Steve Wozniak, right? And, Steve was critical to that, and was a very senior and very wealthy, shareholder within Apple. But there in his later years at Apple, he was squirreled away in the engineering department. He wasn't sitting at the executive table. But I think, there's a lot of reason to think that Steve Wozniak was a key stakeholder in that organization, and what he said and his ideas and his views on things was really important. So those are what we want to understand as we go through with our clients. So scrolling down here, if you're looking at this widget, it does kind of break into a couple of sections. So I try to put a little bar down there here at the bottom to kind of delineate that and make it really easy. We want them, again, we're not going to write this. This is the beauty about this. You don't have to have this information together. You just have to listen. So, say, hey, tell me briefly, kind of what do you see as your job description? It's always going to be their words. This is one of the instances where you don't necessarily have to have a shared screen. All right? You can be sitting there with your laptop. If you want to bring this up, that's fine. I do think there's a pretty good value in bringing it up. And if you're a quick enough typer like me, I'm horrible. I can't spell anything. Apparently. So I'm a little self-conscious about that, but I force myself to do it anyway, because I think it's really, really good when clients see me put their words into reports. That's an engagement. It's a collaboration level. So we get a job description out of them, and then some key responsibilities. And we have bullet points here, not blanks, right? So we want them to be able to give us very open-ended answers to these responses. Again, we'll type these in and then just get them going. I've been in several of these, right? And, sometimes you get to talking with someone and the whole time they're like checking their watch, right? I mean, the only reason they're doing it is because you played that boss card, all right? And those are not as valuable. I'll admit, those are not as valuable interviews. Sometimes you just don't know until you do them. But others, you'll get to talking and you can't shut them up, right? Because they're talking about themselves. They're talking about the jobs that they do for the organization. You're talking about the things that they're passionate about, their challenges, the things they like. You get a lot of people on a roll about this, and it's Niagara Falls. It just starts coming. So I tell everybody, when you book key stakeholder interviews, book them for an hour. Don't be surprised if they only go for 30 minutes, but in your own calendar, put another half hour of buffer time at the end, because there's a good chance you may get someone going who won't stop talking. And that's fine. I mean, they're just giving you great information. So, their top challenges, what's going well, what needs improvement. And again, none of this is technology focused. If they start trying to go, well, I think the speed between, these two switches is a little too low because, move the conversation over to, why would you see that speed? What's impacting it? When you think, the network connection is not right, what are the challenges that you're seeing? What are the errors, or not specifically errors? What problems does it generate? That's where you want your conversation to live, and you really want these guys to talk. So you create these bullet points. Again, you don't have to come up with anything. They're supplying 100% of the content. You document all this and you're good to go. All right. You can take this back. The little bit, not really a lot, but the little bit more work that needs to be done after the fact is really just positioning your technology solutions that are going to identify these elements. And if they have a challenge and you've got a technology solution that can mitigate that challenge, then the next QBR, you bring it up. You say, hey, you guys really need wireless, connectivity out in the warehouse, because when we were talking with Frank, your warehouse director, he says, you guys are running back and forth all the time trying to, jot information down on a scratch pad and then re-enter that in a wired workstation at the front of the warehouse. All right. And you can say, hey, if we could empower Frank's team so that they had tablets while they were out there, we could eliminate all that running time back and forth. All right. And, and then when you do that, here's a cool little bonus part. Don't forget, rename the project and find something that Frank said. All right. Frank said, hey, all of my team members are training for a marathon or whatever. And, then the project becomes, increase everyone's average weight in Frank's department or whatever, quit wearing out the running shoes for Frank's team or whatever it is, so that we can kind of drive that back to, hey, we're really making Frank's team better. It doesn't matter how we're doing it. And to be honest, Frank really wouldn't care. And the owner of the company probably wouldn't care. He just wants the team to be more efficient. If it's wireless infrastructure, great. If it's carrier pigeons, they don't care. They just want it to be better. So you will want to pick the new project names out of some of these bullet points that you're creating here. Again, your clients are providing the materials that you need to align technology solutions in their environment. And so if your interview goes really, really well, again, one of those conversations where it goes on a little bit further, there's kind of a bonus section here. So if we scroll down a little bit further, here are some more prompts. This is not an exhaustive list, and it's not a required list. Okay, so you may get into some other things here. What are some variables that affect the performance? We can break those down internally and externally. So again, just a better understanding of things. What does Frank, think his key technology resources are? What does he use every day? All right. I try to be careful with this one, because if we bring up technology, sometimes it's too easy to get technical. So, play that one by ear. And then these last two are really cool. What's something we learned last year, Frank? I mean, looking back, and this would be a great time if you want to wrap up the year with a KSI, Frank, what did you learn this year? We've obviously everything going on, in the marketplace and global events and all. Is there really anything that, a lesson you learned? All right. Because maybe Frank learned something that we need to replicate in other areas of the business. All right. That they stumbled upon something. Let's maximize that. There could be a lot of things that come out of that, but then also next year's big thing. All right. What's Frank thinking about next year? Is Frank thinking, hey, I'm really going to have to double my staff by the end of 2023. All right. We want to kind of get that out there. Frank's thinking he's going to double his staff. We're looking at an asset management lifecycle with their existing laptops. The CEO or maybe the CFO we're going through that budget dashboard, right? And we're building out some scenarios. And the CFO is going, yeah, we want to push the depreciation out on laptops a long way, or we want to reel it back. Whatever it is, well, maybe we need to make sure we bring that up and say, hey, we was talking to Frank the other day, and he thinks he's going to need to double his team, and the way they're set up, we're probably going to need to double the number of tablets they have or laptops, whatever it is they're running with. We want to get that information into the conversation, because you don't want to build out a great budget, sit down with a CFO, get depreciation cycles all figured out, and then be halfway through the year and Frank hires, 50% or 80%, increase in staff. And now all of a sudden we've got this unplanned spike in purchases that we've got to deal with. Let's get those in here. This can be a great way to help those get into the budgets and what's going forward. So key stakeholder interviews. Again, I get kind of worked up about them because they're great conversations. You learn so much. My first key stakeholder conversation happened just at random. I was working with an oil and gas company. I was in one of our small little quick startup field offices. We had a bunch going on in Denver, and we're like, hey, we got people, let's drop a field office in there right quick. And so I'm there, FedEx is showing up with all kinds of gear, and sure enough, they didn't show up when they were supposed to. It's going to be 4 hours. So I'm sitting, waiting. I've literally nothing to do. And I'm sitting in this makeshift office. They're dumping a bunch of people in one room. I'm sitting next to a geologist. And while I can't tell you any of the details that he talked about, I do know I got a supreme lecture on the value and I don't know, just the whole scope of coal bed methane. All right. Odd topic, but he went on and talked about it. And I remember listening and just kind of following along out of a little bit of boredom, but a little bit of curiosity. And he kept mentioning things about the workstations they were using and some of the connectivity issues they were going with. Now, I'm internal IT staff, right? So I'm not trying to sell anything, but at the same time, I'm listening to him talk going, ooh, wow, if that's really important to him, then I probably need to start building this out internally. All right. It wasn't a technology discussion, right? It was, of all the weird things in the world, coal bed methane. But my takeaway from that was a bunch of technology objectives that I knew I needed to get in place to support him and his team as they did these things. So very easy to do. I like to sprinkle these into the into your playbooks. So my recommendation on this is to look at your clients, your bigger clients, kind of decide how many KSIs do you want to have a year. Maybe it's 3 or 4. I don't think we need to have a lot. All right. The smaller clients, we may only have 1 or 2. And then with the really small clients, we may or may not have any. All right. Because our point of contact may be the owner of the company. And we have the opportunity, to engage with them pretty often. But when that happens, you need to have everybody switch hats, right? Change roles, and make sure that you're setting expectations of the CEO and say, hey, let's take a break here from kind of our normal, life cycle management and, maybe strategy sessions. And let me talk about some of the other jobs that you're doing. And so if they own a company, they probably have a variety of jobs, right? They're doing a variety of things, and the owner role is one, but they probably have another one, and it's, lead developer, head sales person, whatever it is, and have them kind of focus on some of those other job roles to really dive into their business and what's important to them. All right. Boy, sometimes I really do miss Adam because he interrupts me. Sebastian hasn't jumped in and cut me off at all. You need to work on that, Sebastian. You gotta in there, get me going, ungoing sometimes. Get me stopped.
You were on a roll. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was learning from it.
It's like a snowball going downhill sometimes. So key stakeholder interviews, again, if you're brave and you want to hear me talk even more about them, feel free to book me some time. But other than that, I would take your flavor, your approach, your style, look at your customers, your team, and develop a plan, a high level plan, and roll that out to your team, roll that out to your clients. It's really easy to scale key stakeholder interviews, and the deliverables are really easy. I mean, just do it. That's the deliverable, right? What you get out from it is the valuable part, and getting it done is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, very low cost, low barrier to getting these rolling. So can't talk about key stakeholder interviews enough. I think they're extremely valuable to organizations, and it's a part that we miss. All right. You've heard Adam and I talk about this. It comes up in the podcast pretty often. We roll out there, and as technology guys, we think, I don't know where this happened. I look back at my career and I recognize this trend that, I felt this pressure that I need to show up to every meeting with the answers. Right. That was my job, is to be, they're paying me to be the answer guy, to have all the solutions. And that's not the case. I think we need to break that mold, and key stakeholder interviews are an easy way to get out of that and become more of a listener about what's important to our clients. All right, guys, you've been kind of quiet in the chat as well. So I'll take that as a good cue to shut up. Don't forget to keep working on those final engagements for the year. Be working on that plan for next year. And IT Nation, again, anybody going, please let us know. We want to engage with you guys there. All right, everyone. I appreciate you guys showing up, and we will see y'all next week.
Bye.